Now for our What in the World segment. Some startling images caught my eye this week. A shopping free-for-all at a major electronics chain, the equivalent of America's Best Buy. People making off with flat-screen TVs and all kinds of appliances at bargain basement prices. It's not the holidays yet. This is what happened when the government of Venezuela decided to play Robin Hood. The army took over the privately owned chain and slashed prices. The incident got me thinking. We often talk about best practices for economies. Perhaps there should also be a list of things to avoid. A checklist title may be How to Ruin Your Economy. This isn't just a theoretical list. Venezuela is ticking each of the boxes in practice. So let's go to rule number 1. Nationalize business. That's effectively what we saw Venezuela do this week with DACA, the electronics chain. President Nicolas Maduro claims that TVs were so expensive because the United States is trying to bring down the Venezuelan economy. It's not clear how his solution to take over the company will actually fix anything. That brings me to rule number 2, create hyperinflation. The truth is the overall price of goods has risen 54% in Venezuela this year. So if your household groceries cost $100 a week in January, they now cost $154. The ripple effect is clear. Prices go up, so eventually salaries have to go up. And in the long run, anything you produce costs more. Savings lose value. The middle class loses its standard of living, and the entire economy suffers. Rule number 3, induce a currency crisis. What does rampant inflation do? It devalues your currency. The official exchange rate is 6.3 bolivars for every greenback. In reality, the black market rate is 7 to 10 times that amount. For a country that imports 70% of its basic goods, this is a huge problem. You may remember recently that Venezuela ran out of toilet paper. Why? Well, it is now running out of a different kind of paper, the money to pay for it. Which brings me to rule number 4. Subsidize, subsidize, subsidize. If Caracas is running out of money, the government doesn't seem to care. It's been lavishing subsidies for housing, food, health care. There have been 2 recent elections, and at each one came a fresh set of promises. And remember, gas is essentially free. In fact, Venezuela not only subsidizes gas for its own people, it also gives heavily discounted oil to Cuba. All the while, it is running out of money. I could go on and on, but I'll just point out one more rule, number 5, which is become a dictatorship. President Nicolas Maduro won a vote this week to get what is known as decree powers, the ability to pass laws without consulting Congress. He says he needs these powers to fix the economy and tackle corruption. After all, Venezuela is ranked 181st of 189 countries for ease of doing business. It ranks 165th for transparency. It took years for Hugo Chavez to take Venezuela down to this point. Maduro seems to believe that by doubling down on those very policies, he's somehow going to get a different outcome. So on points 1 through 5, Venezuela is on a fast track to ruin. The world saw this coming under Chavez.
¡Viva la revolución socialista! ¡Viva Venezuela! ¡Viva Chavez!
We hope for change, but in his dying days, Chavez picked a mini-me to stay the course. The only reason Venezuela has been able to survive, given this record of ruinous policies, has been its oil wealth, which has given the government the revenues that cushion it from the effects of all its disasters. The sad reality is that Venezuela is wasting the world's largest oil reserves. It could be as wealthy as Saudi Arabia or Qatar. It could easily outstrip Mexico and Brazil. Instead, it is beginning to look more and more like North Korea.